The innovator's dilemma. It is something that we quite often encounter in the partners that we work with. We see it in younger companies that are starting to gain traction with their product or service. We see it in later stage companies that have reached a certain maturity level. Both types of companies struggle with the innovator's dilemma, which is they have created and defined and refined and optimized processes that have created the growth that has led to the traction, or created the growth that has helped that company grow to a point of maturity. The dilemma comes in when market shifts happen and those companies realize that they need to change, they need to innovate. But lo and behold, an entire organization, the processes in it, the roles and responsibilities of the people that they've hired to manage the processes, and then the incentive structure throughout the organization is all designed to create the predictable outcomes of the process. But the process is not designed for change or for innovation. So what does that company do? The customers, the shareholders, they're continually expecting that same output from the process that they either bought for or invested in. But hey, right around the corner, change is coming. And if we're not prepared for it, if we're not ready for it, if we're not investing in the future, we're going to be in trouble. Hence the dilemma. What do I do? So if I'm an earlier stage company and I'm getting traction in the marketplace, I've gotten to that point. At one point, I was a startup. I had to find that traction. I was an innovator. I was the one taking on the mature company. I was the one lurking around the corner from that mature company. I was the one beating them to the punch. So for that younger company who's gaining the traction, it's all about running parallel. It's not losing sight of the mentality and the skill sets and the fire and the determination and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps every single day to go solve real problems. It's taking that and it's bottling it and it's running parallel as you continually optimize and manage the processes that are creating those predictable outcomes. But it's also creating a parallel track to where you continue to innovate and you never lose sight of the things, both qualitative, quantitative, that led to the traction in the first place. So what happens if you're one of those companies that's been fortunate enough to reach a level of maturity without necessarily having to or being forced to be a innovator? Well, you found yourself in a tough situation to where you're being forced to, whether it's by your competitors or an upstart or market changes, things may be beyond your control where you are being forced to change, forced to innovate. But you know what? Maybe you have decades worth of entrenched processes, even down to culture, mentality of doing one thing one way. Now all of a sudden, we have to change. How do you do that? It's not something you can just come in and make an announcement that we're going to go try something totally new. It's kind of, if you can almost imagine a set of gears that are locking together. That would be like taking a bucket of steel balls and just dropping it into those gears. It's just going to gum it up, lock it up, and break it. So what do you do in a situation like that? Well, fortunately, there's options. Typically, it comes down to two. You can either take on a strategic partner in the area of innovation that you want to pursue, or you can be a strategic investor in a company that is pursuing the innovation that you want to incorporate into your company. The other option, you can move it a little bit closer to your organization in the form of an entrepreneur in residence program, an innovation hub, a venture studio. They're all a little bit different, but it's all of the same flavor in the sense that we are going to make an investment in team, structure, resource allocation to go and build new processes, new incentive structures that reward and encourage rapid innovation, that encourages failure, to go and create the type of innovation that the company is looking for. In either scenario, one of the most important things that we've seen that companies have succeeded with in either one of these strategies, the most important thing is making sure that every step of the way that key stakeholders inside the parent organization are actively involved and engaged with, whether it's the strategic partner, the company that's been invested in, or if it's that entrepreneur in residence or the venture studio, those key stakeholders inside the parent company are absolutely aligned, communicating with, working with those teams. Because one of the most important things that has to happen, that innovation as it's being developed is going to have to be methodically, carefully, strategically pulled into the parent organization. Keep in mind that parent organization, it's a mature organization. It has processes that have been absolutely optimized for peak performance. Those processes are going to have to be adapted to now embrace this new innovation, whether it's technology, services, product, whatever it may be. They're going to have to be adapted to now take this new innovation in and now go produce new outcomes. And that's not something that can just be done with the snap of a finger. So if we're off creating this innovation, we've gone through an MVP, it's now ready to rock and roll, we think, and then we show up one day with all these stakeholders, hey, here's your shiny new toy, it's ready for distribution, it's not gonna work. So again, one of the most important things, stakeholders from day one are actively involved in that innovation so that you're planning parallel paths as innovations being created. We're also planning and preparing to marry those two things together for that ultimate distribution within the parent company.